the important thing rather than the urgent thing. It's called the tyranny of the urgent. Again, the loudest thing in your face will be the thing that you pay attention to. So we need to choose ahead of time. Maybe somebody should do a sermon series called Know Before You Go, so you have values set up before you go into a situation. Oh, we did that. Go catch it on YouTube. To decide what you're going to do before the emotions of a moment come in and derail your future. We need to get a vision for our own heart to understand this idea that this moment is fleeting, and after this moment is everything we've been building for. And so we need to think, in light of the future I want, in light of the future I want for my kids, in light of the future relationships, in light of the future spiritual connection to my God and Lord and Savior, what is the right decision right now, not what feels right now? It's called delayed gratification, and my generation is lousy at it. Right? It's now. And the greatest illustration of how we push back is just what Jesus did. Right? Jesus is tempted in the wilderness. You can go read it in Matthew or Luke. And Satan shows up, and he says to Jesus, who's hungry, he's been fasting for 40 days, he says, turn these bread into stone. And Jesus is like, I'm the bread of life, man. What are you trying to offer me? In a moment, it sounds good. You're hungry. Turn it into stone. Jesus knows who he is. Man doesn't eat by bread alone. Satan's like, all right, you got me. All right, next one. And so he says, listen, here's what you do. Throw yourself down, and the angels will keep you from dashing your feet on the stone. They'll keep you safe. They'll keep you from dying. And Jesus is here on mission. He's like, in like 3 years, I'm going to conquer death. Well, what do you mean the angels will save me? That's super impressive. He knows who he is and what he's doing. So in the moment, he just turns to Satan. He's like, what's up, dummy? Because he knows who he is. The last one, Satan says, listen, I'll give you all the kingdoms of this world if you'll bow down and worship me, Jesus. And Jesus is like, let me just double check. King of kings and Lord of lords. You can't offer me anything. And in a moment, just a simple thought to stop and say, this moment, this lie in this single second is so thin and transparent and stupid that if I know who I am and whose I am, I can actually choose the important thing instead of the urgent thing. And that's how we don't fall into sin, because we actually believe in a God who can give us more than sin. Choose what you really want. It's a value assessment, which brings us to our second point. Treasure Jesus more than sin. Treasure Jesus more than sin. The only way to stop going after sin in your life is not to focus on it really hard, not to think about it as hard as you can and use more willpower, not to say, I'm not going to do that anymore. It's to focus on Jesus, who is better than your sin. It's to focus on the God of the universe who can give you what you're trying to actually get out of that thing. And we can choose him over sin when we actually realize how stabilizing he is in a crazy, messed up world. It can motivate us in difficult times when we know what the treasure is at the end. I heard this story about two guys, and they're basically just folding paper for 16 hours. And one of them, the boss, goes in and goes, listen, fold this paper for 16 hours, and at the end of it, I'm going to give you $40. I'll pay you $40 not to fold paper. Come on, man. And he's sitting there and he's folding. He's got 16 hours. And so the guy goes into another room where a guy's folding paper for 16 hours and says, listen, at the end of this, I'm going to give you $200 million. And the guy's like, yeah, fold some paper, man. He's folding paper. He's singing a song. He loves paper. Paper is the greatest thing in his life because at the end of 16 hours, he's getting $20 million. He loves folding. What's the only difference? It's the reward. It's the motivation. It's that at the end of this moment, there's something more outside of this moment that's worth pursuing to get me through it. And this is what atheism leaves us with. It's this $40, like, what are you doing here? I don't know. What happens after this? I don't know. Do you like sleeping in dirt? I guess so. And there's nothing to motivate you. There's no self-control. There's no transcendence in it because it's just sin at the end and death. And so when we treasure Jesus more than sin, we have a motivation to not give up, to not let go. Jesus says at the end of this, I will give you the crown of life. Don't get tired. Be self-controlled, but it's not just self-control. And here's the last thought I'm closing with. It's actually self-submission so that Jesus can be in control. Here's what self-control is. It's not an act of the will. It's an act of replacement.